He had kicked my unborn child to death just to please his mistress, believing I, a woman feigning muteness, could only endure his insults unaware that my silenced throat concealed a curse that would make them rot to death, clutching my agonizing abdomen. I sat up and spoke in a hoarse voice, "Marcus, then I wish you eternal loss of love and a lifetime of solitude." Marcus's arm wrapped around Chloe, stiffened. "Luna, you can actually talk? You've been pretending to be mute for so many years just to deceive Henry and gain sympathy? You truly have a cunning mind. What deceitful tactics." Chloe immediately snuggled into Marcus's arms, weakly sobbing, adding fuel to the fire at just the right moment. "Marcus, please calm down first." Although I'm very grateful for Luna's past support, I never expected her kindness and enthusiasm were all a pretense. Chloe looked at me with tear-filled eyes, her tone aggrieved and innocent. "Luna, just because my medical research can help Thorn Pharmaceuticals thrive, you became insanely jealous of me, even going so far as to conspire with Anne to use peanut paste to cause my allergic reaction, nearly costing me my life. I admit, falling for Marcus first was my mistake, but I never intended to ruin your marriage. Our feelings developed naturally, but we always respected boundaries." Watching's utterly manipulative facade, I felt a wave of nausea then. I scoffed, squeezing words from my dry throat. "Emotional infidelity is still infidelity. Seducing a married man makes you a home wrecker. Don't find so many high-sounding excuses." "You," Chloe, struck by my words, still defiantly retorted, "in a marriage, the unloved one is the outsider." Just as I was about to speak, Marcus slapped me hard multiple times. It made blood seep from the corner of my mouth and my ears ring. "Shut up, Luna," he roared, his eyes seeming to want to rip me apart alive. "Don't you dare talk about Chloe like that. She's pure as snow and naive, unlike you, who is vicious and malicious. A woman like you is utterly unworthy of bearing children for the Thorn family. Only is worthy." His eyes bloodshot. He lifted his foot again, kicking fiercely at my swollen belly. Excruciating pain instantly swept through my entire body, 1,000 times worse than the previous kick. A warm liquid gushed out from below me, my vision went black, and I completely lost consciousness when I next awoke. I was lying on the master bedroom king-sized bed on the second floor of the estate. I instinctively touched my lower abdomen, which had become completely flat. The little life that had been growing inside me for 6 months had completely left me. My heart felt as if a piece had been gouged out. Already numb with pain, Martha stood by the bed, holding a glass of water, her face etched with concern. "Madam, you're finally awake. You've been unconscious for 3 days." Looking around, the doors and windows were tightly shut. I could faintly hear the footsteps of bodyguards outside. I struggled to get out of bed, wanting to find Henry, to ask him to save me, to save my mother who had been taken away, but my cell phone was gone. The landline phone cord in the room had been pulled out, and I was completely confined. I tightly clasped Martha's hand, pleading tearfully, "Martha, please help me. Help me call Henry, please." Martha's face showed great reluctance. "Madam, it's not that I don't want to help you. It's just that Master ordered that no one is allowed to let you out or help you contact the outside world." She sighed, her voice choked with tears. "You know I can't lose this job. My sick child needs money for treatment." Upon hearing this, I understood everything instantly and despondently lay back on the bed, pretending to sleep. Martha quietly left the room after seeing me seemingly asleep. I suddenly opened my eyes, realizing the only way was to use the ability I had kept hidden for over 20 years. This time, it wasn't to harm others, but to save myself. The bodyguards at the door will immediately have stomach pain. I focused my mind, muttering repeatedly under my breath. Less than half an hour later, there was a sudden commotion outside the door. Then I heard the bodyguards cursing in low voices, followed by hurried footsteps. "Oh, damn, why does my stomach hurt so much all of a sudden? I can't take it. I can't take it." Hurry to the restroom. Sure enough, they clutched their stomachs, leaving the doorway with pained expressions. I immediately struggled out of bed, took a spare key from the drawer, and trembling, opened the door. The hallway outside was empty. Disregarding the pain and weakness in my body, I gritted my teeth and bolted out. I finally managed to find my cell phone and ID, and was just about to run out of the estate. A piercing laugh reached me, and I suddenly looked up, my heart plummeting instantly. Marcus was embracing Chloe, brazenly walking into the living room. Chloe nestled in his arms, her face flushed, her eyes dancing with triumph. At the same time, Martha and several bodyguards chased me down, blocking my escape, caught between them. I was instantly a trapped animal. Luna, how dare you? Trying to escape on your own. Marcus's face instantly darkened when he saw me. He released Chloe, taking large strides towards me, his aura feeling like it would tear me apart. Grab her, lock her up. The bodyguards immediately stepped forward to grab my arms, but Chloe softly spoke at that moment. Marcus, don't be so harsh. She walked up to me, a look of false concern on her face. Luna, you're still not well. How can you run around like this? Can't we just talk things over? She turned to Marcus, her voice growing even sweeter. Marcus, don't be angry with her. From now on, we'll be living together in the estate, and I'll take good care of her and live in peace with her. Looking at her pure and innocent face, a shiver of disgust ran through me. I shook off the bodyguard's hand, took out my cell phone, and trembling, dialed Henry's number. Beep, beep. The number you have dialed cannot be reached temporarily. The cold automated voice rang repeatedly, like a heavy hammer striking my nearly shattered heart. Marcus sneered, his eyes full of contempt. Don't bother. Henry is abroad negotiating a multi-billion-dollar deal. He has no time to deal with a deceitful, wicked liar like you. I glared at him, then suppressed the metallic taste in my throat, speaking calmly. Marcus, let's get a divorce. I can leave empty-handed, as long as you let me go and bring my mother back. My mother and I will immediately leave Riverbend City and never appear before you again. So as not to be an eyesore for you and Chloe. For some reason, a strange expression flickered across Marcus's face when he heard me mention divorce. Then, like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, he flew into a rage. Divorce? Who gave you permission to suggest divorce? He took a step forward, looking down at me condescendingly. Luna, get your identity straight. To the public, we've always been a loving, harmonious couple. Now you want to cause a divorce scandal. Do you want Thorne Pharmaceuticals stock to plummet? You'll stay here in the Thorne family, playing your part as Mrs. Thorne, and ensure Chloe is well taken care of. He pointed to Chloe, who was standing nearby with a triumphant expression, his tone cruelly condescending. In a month, if Chloe is happy, I might consider bringing your vicious mother back. Otherwise, it's out of the question. Humiliation and rage gnawed at my heart like venomous snakes. My entire body trembled. Chloe's smile stiffened for a moment when she heard Marcus didn't plan to divorce immediately and promote her, but she quickly recovered. She pressed even closer to Marcus, rubbing her voluptuous chest against his arm. Marcus, didn't you say you wanted to give me a proper tour of the estate? Let's go up and see. Marcus was clearly aroused by her flirtation, the anger in his eyes swiftly replaced by desire. He swept Chloe into his arms and, under the complex gazes of the servants, impatiently headed upstairs. Chloe nestled in his embrace, turning back to give me a provocative smile. I clenched my cell phone, struggling to hold back the tears in my eyes, and gritted my teeth. Marcus, then I wish you may you be cursed with utter impotence. The master bedroom was occupied by that despicable pair, so Martha took me to the guest bedroom where my mother used to live. Passing the master bedroom door, I heard embarrassing moans and Chloe's deliberately heightened cries from inside. My footsteps didn't falter, but a cold smile touched my lips. Marcus, enjoy this last bit of madness, because after this, you'll hardly be able to perform in bed. Looking at the traces of my mother's life in the room, my heart felt like an invisible hand was squeezing it. So painful I couldn't breathe, could truly be safe and sound for a month in that so-called the rehabilitation center. Chloe, with her vicious and malicious mind, would she easily let go of the chance to torment Eleanor? I took out my cell phone and dialed Eleanor's number again, but the receiver still gave a cold, busy signal. For the next few days, I tried to contact Eleanor, but the calls never went through. My intuition told me that Eleanor's situation might be very bad. I decided to dial a police call, but the police said there was insufficient evidence for investigation. That evening, I was allowed to go to the backyard of the estate for some fresh air. And in a corner near the dog kennels, I saw something familiar. It was a baby romper covered in dirt and dog hair. Although the style was simple, you could see the care put into its making. My mother had stayed up for several nights in my early pregnancy, stitching every thread for my unborn child. She said it was the first gift from a grandmother to her little grandchild. Now, this tiny outfit, carrying Eleanor's love and hopes, was casually discarded here, used as bedding for their pet dogs. My hands trembled violently. I could barely hold the dirty little outfit. I rushed back to the living room like a madwoman, throwing the clothes in front of Chloe, demanding why she had done it. Chloe was startled by my action, then immediately hid behind Marcus, who had just come downstairs. Marcus frowned, glanced at the little outfit on the floor. His tone dismissive anyway. "Your child is gone, so there's no use keeping it. It's an honor for this outfit to be used as bedding for Chloe's beloved dog, as long as Chloe is happy." Chloe immediately showed a moved expression, snuggling into his arms. "Thank you, Marcus. You're the best to me." At this moment, the intense humiliation and surging fury threatened to consume my sanity, but I couldn't react. For Eleanor's sake, for the 1-month deadline, I had to suppress all the hatred and pain deep within me, choosing to endure. Late at night, I tossed and turned, Eleanor's figure, Chloe's triumphant smile, Marcus's cold words all flashed through my mind like a carousel. I decided to go downstairs to the kitchen to warm up a cup of milk, hoping it would help me sleep. The estate was silent. Only the faint sound of my slippers on the floor. Passing the study, I paused. The study door was ajar, a faint light glowing from within, and I could vaguely hear Chloe's hushed voice. Curiosity compelled me to quietly approach, pressing my ear to the crack in the door, where I heard Chloe on a speakerphone call with someone. "How was the old woman at the rehabilitation center handled?" "Everything's taken care of, Ms. Chloe, don't worry." My blood instantly froze. I clamped my hand over my mouth to stifle a gasp. Could the old woman they spoke of be my mother? Chloe's voice rose again. "Also, the new drug I developed urgently needs a batch of fresh samples for activity testing." So Ridgeview Center was just a front. They were secretly conducting illegal drug experiments. As the call was about to end, Chloe seemed to remember something and complained into the phone. "Oh, and that little blue pill imported from abroad that we talked about last time, get me some quickly. Marcus has been increasingly inadequate lately. I wonder if he recently became sexually active and pushed too hard this week. It's always disappointingly brief. How annoying." Just then, Marcus groggily came to call her. Chloe immediately hung up the phone and, feigning coquettishness, went back to the master bedroom with him. I held my breath, emerged from the shadows of the hallway, and entered the study. They had left in such a hurry that they hadn't even shut down the computer. The desktop on the large screen was clean, with only one prominent folder. I trembled as I clicked it open. The contents instantly made my blood run cold. Numerous documents, photos, and videos meticulously detailed everything that happened after Eleanor was sent to the rehabilitation center. Restricted diet, forced labor, nighttime noise torture, and even intentionally placing her with violent patients. The records, in cold, clinical words, analyzed how Eleanor's mental state gradually deteriorated, from initial terror and unease, to later vacant eyes, and finally complete idiocy and numbness. Every word, every sentence, was like a red-hot iron, searing my heart. Silent tears streamed down my face. I nearly crushed the mouse in my hand. I forced myself to calm down and continued to read. The files quickly shifted from the torment at the rehabilitation center to drug experiments. Eleanor had completely become Chloe's test subject for her new drug. The tables were filled with cold data, recording Eleanor's violent reactions after being injected with unknown drugs, full-body convulsions, incessant vomiting, internal bleeding, and vital signs repeatedly critical. The report was interspersed with photos. Eleanor tied to a laboratory table, covered in tubes, emaciated, reduced to skin and bones. Her eyes were tightly closed, her face streaked with dried bloodstains and tear tracks. My once gentle and kind mother had been tormented into such an barely recognizable state by these devils. I was practically suffocating, my vision blurring in and out, but I forced myself to keep browsing until the very last document, when I saw its contents. I clamped my hand over my mouth, letting out an uncontrollable gag. The records showed that after Eleanor's vital signs completely disappeared, that devil Chloe actually ordered her body to be dissected. Her internal organs were meticulously removed, specially treated, and made into individual organ specimens. Photos attached to the end of the document showed the organs soaking in liquid, clearly labeled with names, weights, and identification numbers. The end of the data mentioned that the remaining parts of Eleanor's body were sent to a biopharmaceutical company for final disposal, and that company was Thorne Pharmaceuticals, with Marcus's signature on it. So was also involved in all of this. They were accomplices. Trembling, I found a USB drive in the study drawer and quickly copied all the documents. My throat felt like it was on fire, and an unprecedented power surged wildly within me. roaring to break free. Enough, everything was enough. My forbearance and concession during this time had only brought deeper humiliation and harm. My dry throat produced a hoarse voice, every word laced with blood, tears, and a curse. Marcus, Chloe, I swear by the bloodline of the Wen family, by the curse of the spoken word, I curse you. Betrayed by all, reputation ruined, and a wretched demise. I suppressed the surging hatred in my chest, quickly returned to the guest bedroom, and dialed a police call, after confirming that the police would arrive soon. I hung up the phone and activated my cell phone's recording function in advance. I walked step by step towards the master bedroom, lifting my foot and fiercely kicking open the ajar door. A resounding crash startled the couple on the bed, who were immersed in their lust. Marcus and Chloe were naked, their bodies entangled, their movements frozen in the most indecent moment. When he saw it was me, Marcus abruptly sat up and snapped, "Luna, what the hell are you doing?" I stood at the doorway, my gaze, sharp as knives, pierced their bewildered faces one by one. "Where is my mother? What exactly have you done to my mother?" Chloe was the first to react, acutely sensing the unsettling aura about me. It wasn't the usual submissive and accepting of ill-treatment demeanor, but an absolute determination for mutual destruction. She suddenly screamed hysterically, tightly gripping Marcus's arm. "Marcus, she knows. She must have seen the computer in the study. She knows about our illegal drug experiments. Kill her. Quick, kill her. We can't let her leak the information. We'll all be ruined." Like a madwoman, she tried to lunge off the bed and grab me, but Marcus pulled her back tightly. Marcus's face was terrifyingly grim, his eyes swiftly shifting between anger and calculation. He knew better than Chloe what the contents of the study would mean once exposed. The family's reputation would be ruined, his years of work destroyed in an instant, and they would be thrown into prison. He stared at me, growling, "Luna, what do you want? Cash? Thorn shares? Or something else? Name your price. Stop causing trouble. We can sit down and talk about anything." He still believed that everything in this world could be measured by profit, including deep-seated hatred. But how could those filthy gains compare to the suffering Eleanor endured? I looked at his feigned composure, feeling incredibly sarcastic. I squeezed out a few words through gritted teeth, every word dripping with blood. "I want my mother. I want you to return her remains, and those organs you made into specimens, to me. I want her to be laid to rest." Chloe laughed shrilly, as if she had heard the biggest joke. Her face twisted in a sickly contortion. "Remains? Organs? Luna, are you insane? She's just a dead old woman. Her body was already disposed of. You want her back? Dream on." I clenched my fists tightly, my nails digging into my palms, bringing sharp pain, and barely managed to stop myself from losing control and lunging. Marcus's eyes darkened as he weighed the pros and cons, knowing there was no benefit in provoking me now, and he had to placate me first. He gritted his teeth and snapped at Chloe, "Shut up." Then he turned to me, forcing a stiff show of sincerity. "All right, I promise you, I'll send someone to bring your mother's remaining parts over. But once you get the things, you must keep everything you saw today a secret." He emphasized, an unveiled threat in his eyes. "If you dare to leak a single word, Luna, I promise your fate will be 100 times worse than your mother's." Marcus acted quickly, or rather, he was eager to silence me with these mere scraps. In less than half an hour, his trusted bodyguard stood in the center of the living room, emotionlessly carrying a box. It was a sealed black wooden box, containing the last traces of my mother in this world. Marcus and Chloe were already dressed, watching with cold indifference from the side. They seemed to anticipate seeing me break down in tears or kneel and beg. My fingers trembled, using nearly all my strength to open the heavy wooden box latch. The moment the lid opened, my breath hitched. Inside were no complete remains, only some scattered, burned, unidentifiable charred remains. They were sparsely scattered on the yellow velvet cloth lining the bottom of the box, like garbage. Was this the gentle and kind mother who used to call me Luna with a smile? Tormented by them, used as a test subject by them, her internal organs removed by them, leaving only these unpinnable fragments? My heart felt like an invisible hand had mercilessly clutched and crushed it, leaving me gasping for breath. I bit down hard on my lower lip, tasting the strong taste of blood, and barely managed to stay standing. Chloe, seeing me merely standing pale-faced and not losing composure as she expected, a flicker of displeasure crossed her eyes. She stepped forward, a look of feigned sadness on her face, her voice so saccharine it was nauseating. Luna, my condolences. See, Aunt is in heaven now. She won't suffer anymore." She even extended her hand, pretending to pat my shoulder in comfort. I suddenly looked up, my icy gaze, sharp as a sword, shot towards her hypocritical hand. Her hand froze in midair, her fake smile solidified, seemingly frozen by the chill in my eyes. "Luna, you." She tried to say something else, but her voice caught in her throat. Marcus frowned, looking at us impatiently. He only cared if I would keep my promise and keep his filthy secrets buried. I clutched the box, my fingertips icy cold, but my heart felt as if it had been plunged into molten lava, every inch scorching, but eventually, all of it settled, transforming into an icy, bone-chilling hatred. I slowly placed the box on the ground, so gently as if it contained the most precious delicate glass. Then I stood straight, my gaze calmly sweeping over Marcus and Chloe. My voice was soft, yet it carried a strange penetrating power, echoing through the dead-silent living room. "Marcus." I pronounced each syllable of that name, a low hum filled the air, and the crystal chandelier lights began to flicker wildly. Like a phantom, Marcus's impatience instantly turned to shock, then deep wariness. "Chloe." I spoke her name again. Chloe gasped as if struck by an invisible hammer. Her body lurched back a step, and the color instantly drained from her face. What do you want to do, Luna?" I ignored her, simply raising my hand and pointing at them. My voice carried an ancient, heavy power, as if from the deepest depths of hell. "You stole my mother's life. I curse you to suffer excruciating, soul-crushing pain, and no peace day or night." The moment my words fell, Marcus and Chloe simultaneously let out a muffled groan of pain. Their hands clamped over their chests, their facial muscles contorted, veins bulging, but this was only the beginning. My voice grew louder and louder, every word like a clap of thunder. "Striking this sinful estate, striking their filthy souls, you destroyed my mother's body. I curse you to be disfigured, body decaying, scorned by all." The curse, like the most venomous ink, splattered over them. Marcus watched in horror as the back of his hand rapidly developed large areas of redness and swelling. Then came dense, tiny blisters, intensely itchy. He couldn't help but scratch, breaking through his skin, releasing yellow pus and emitting a foul odor. Chloe's proud face now looked as if doused with sulfuric acid. Her skin rapidly festered and peeled away, revealing raw, bloody flesh beneath, mixed with pus, utterly horrifying, but their terrible state did not make the hatred in my heart diminish even slightly. I continued, "You trampled my mother's love. I curse you to be betrayed by all, family destroyed, and an eternity of suffering." Bang in the living room, the valuable antique vase inexplicably shattered. Outside the window, rolling muffled thunder roared like war drums, making the windows hum. My curse, the spoken word commands reality, established my own law within this space. Finally, I used all my strength to deliver the last declaration. "Everything you inflicted upon my mother shall be returned 100-fold. From this day forth, you shall beg for life yet be unable to die, until you are annihilated." As the last word fell, I felt a tearing pain spread through my throat. A sweet, metallic taste of blood welled up, but I forced myself to swallow it down. The pent-up frustration of many years in my chest, with the completion of the curse, was finally completely released. Martha, who had been secretly peeking from the doorway, was already scared out of her wits. Her legs gave out, and she collapsed to the floor. She had wet herself, her eyes filled with extreme fear as she looked at me, as if seeing a living demon who had crawled out of hell. She knew that the young madam, who used to be easily bullied, had completely changed. The family was doomed. Just then, piercing police sirens sounded outside the window, drawing nearer. The alternating red and blue police lights cast their glow on my face, making me look like a ruthless avenger. I handed the USB drive and the recorded content to the police and went with them to the police station to make a statement. They quickly organized an operation, raiding the rehabilitation center and underground laboratory. In a storage cabinet, they found the carefully preserved organ specimens. I personally went to claim the remains. Clutching my mother's recovered organs, tears streamed down my face, as if I could once again feel my mother's warm embrace from childhood. Later, I chose an auspicious burial plot for my mother, allowing her to finally be laid to rest. I didn't notify anyone, burying her alone. I knelt before the grave, not crying, but only whispering, Mom, rest assured. Everyone who hurt you will pay the cost. Marcus and Chloe were formally criminally detained due to irrefutable evidence. However, their physical condition rapidly deteriorated, so they could only be temporarily transferred to a police-designated hospital for supervised treatment. Just then Grandpa, who had been living abroad for years, finally rushed back upon hearing the news. Grandpa, frail with age, his face etched with exhaustion and pain, he looked at me, his lips trembling, and finally dropped to his knees before me with a thud. Luna, I'm sorry, Luna. I'm sorry to your grandfather. Tears streamed down his aged face. It's my fault for not raising my grandson well, for letting him commit such inhumane and worse than an animal acts. I failed your grandfather's dying wish. I didn't take good care of you. I looked at him silently, not reaching out to help him up, only saying calmly, It's too late to say these things now. I know it's too late for anything. Grandpa pleaded bitterly, but the Thorne family can't fall. Luna, I beg you, please, for your grandfather's sake, help the Thorne family. Keep the company afloat. As long as you're willing to stay, everything in the Thorne family will be yours from now on. I gently shook my head, took a document from my bag, and placed it before him. This is the divorce agreement, I've already signed it. Grandpa looked at the document in disbelief, his eyes filled with despair. You're really leaving? I stood up and sighed softly. I should have left long ago. The family will completely collapse, but that's their deserved retribution. I turned, not sparing another glance at Grandpa kneeling on the ground. I walked step by step out of this place that had once trapped me and brought me endless suffering. Behind me, Grandpa's heart-wrenching cries echoed, but I didn't look back from then on. The Thorne family and I no longer had any ties, and my curse was just beginning to bear its fangs. The family's collapse was faster and more complete than I had imagined. Thorne Pharmaceuticals' stock plummeted, and once stable partnerships crumbled and collapsed overnight. Breach of contract letters flew in like snowflakes, and the bank's debt collection calls completely overwhelmed the Thorne family's communication lines. Gossip in the streets, news notifications on phones, all proclaiming the downfall of the Thorne dynasty, the once glorious business empire, admired by countless people, was on the verge of bankruptcy in just a few days. Like a gigantic bubble that had burst, Chloe's medical genius aura completely shattered, replaced by the infamy of disregard for human life and illegal experiments. Under deeper media scrutiny, past dirty deeds that had been covered up were exposed one by one. Not only was her reputation ruined, but she also faced huge compensation claims from the victims' families and severe legal sanctions. What followed the financial collapse was a double hell of physical and mental torment. I obtained their latest photos from the police. They were secretly circulated from the hospital. Their skin, initially just rashes, rapidly developed into large areas of festering sores and pus, with not an inch of healthy skin. The intense itch from the decay penetrated their very bones. It was said they often scratched themselves bloody and raw in their sleep. The top doctors and most expensive medications were powerless against this bizarre condition. Their condition not only didn't improve but visibly worsened at an alarming rate. Their bodies emitted a foul odor. Even the most professional caregivers couldn't tolerate it. They were isolated in special hospital rooms, suffering the torment of decaying flesh day and night. The mental torture was even more brutal. Nightmares every night, filled with visions of Eleanor's gruesome death. They woke up in terror, sweat drenched their hospital gowns, their eyes vacant, appearing deranged. Marcus, once tall and handsome, and Chloe, once pure and captivating, rapidly emaciated and disfigured, becoming two walking skeletons. Grandpa, dragging his frail aged body, rushed about. Seeking masters who could break the curse, he mobilized all his connections and wealth, bringing in countless powerful mystic advisors, spiritual healers, and reclusive mystics. However, those who were initially full of confidence, after witnessing or hearing about the horrific state of Marcus and Chloe, without exception, all were terrified out of their wits and fled overnight. The words they left were largely similar. This is divine retribution, divine retribution. Beyond human power, irreversible. Grandpa collapsed into the empty living room. His aged eyes held only a dead stillness. He finally understood that he was facing not an ordinary business crisis, nor a simple illness, but an incomprehensible, unstoppable, terrifying force from an ancient bloodline. And this force was released by the granddaughter-in-law he trusted and owed the most. The curse did not cease. Instead, it seemed to be fueled anew. Accelerating wildly, It no longer satisfied with mere physical torment, but aimed to completely erase Marcus and Chloe on a physical level. The hospital was powerless, or rather, dared not keep them any longer. They were granted special permission to transfer back to the estate, which once symbolized power and wealth but was now like a haunted ruin. Their bodies decayed at an alarming rate. Their skin had completely vanished, exposing raw white bones. They could no longer swallow anything. Their throats seemed burned, only able to emit inhuman moans of pain. An invisible force field had formed around the estate, and the air became thick and oppressive. The sky was always overcast, not allowing a single ray of sunlight to penetrate. Occasionally, bold media outlets or curious onlookers snuck long-lens photos of the faint, terrifying glimpses within the estate, or bits and pieces of information circulated from the mouths of despairing servants who had left. Those blurry videos and sensational rumors quietly spread within certain circles, making them truly fulfill my promise of being scorned by all. In the final moments of their lives, the curse revealed its most grotesque and vengeful form. Marcus's chest began to rise and fall eerily. Through the ruptured skin, internal organs were faintly visible, struggling to protrude outwards. He felt extreme pain, the excruciating, soul-crushing pain, as if sharp claws were tearing and churning inside his body. And after Chloe's skin had fully decayed, it didn't completely turn to pus. The decaying flesh gradually shriveled and contracted, adhering tightly to her bones, taking on a strange, waxy, hardened sheen. Her entire being resembled a specimen clumsily force-dried, forever frozen in agony and decay. This precisely mirrored her wicked act of turning Eleanor's organs into specimens. The curse was delivering poetic justice. I didn't personally witness their last breaths. The power of the curse was like a tide. I could clearly feel its every surge, every rise. I only remembered a night of fierce lightning and thunder. Wild winds carried a torrential downpour, savagely lashing every corner of the city. Precisely at midnight, a dull, massive roar suddenly erupted from the estate, even kilometers away. I felt the ground beneath my feet tremble slightly. The next day, the rain cleared, but heavy clouds still hung ominously over the estate. When law enforcement and a few daring reporters approached the eerily silent building, the sight before them left everyone utterly speechless. Inside, the estate was utterly annihilated. Walls were charred black, furniture reduced to fragments, and the air reeked of intense burning. As for Marcus and Chloe, they had completely vanished. There were no complete bodies, not even identifiable remains. Only a dark, unsettling stain remained, mixed with bone fragments and unidentifiable organic matter. It was as if some immense force had forcibly crushed and incinerated them, then merged them with the dust and dirt, becoming, in the truest sense, ashes to ashes. After my profound vengeance was achieved, I held a bouquet of daisies and stood before Eleanor's gravestone that was hushed, with only the rustling of wind through the leaves. I gazed distantly towards where the estate once stood, now just the outline of ruins. My vengeance was complete, in the most thorough and devastating way possible, but the vast, empty void in my heart remained, a constant reminder that everything I had lost could never be restored. Later, I moved to another unfamiliar city, embarking on a new life. I was no longer the submissive and accepting of ill treatment, silent mute Luna I once was. The sensation of speaking aloud was marvelous. Every word carried a heavy weight. I knew the power of words, and I understood the cost that came with wielding them. What the future held, I couldn't be certain of, but I would learn to control it, to revere it, and to tread carefully with every step from now on.